Good morning, everybody. I am Food by Faith Garden to Table, your Zone 8A Georgia gardener, and today I want to welcome you to my kitchen. So today we have a lot going on. Tomorrow I will be having a Sunday brunch, and during that Sunday brunch I have quite a few items that I am going to be baking. We have a lot that we're going to be cooking, but today I'm going to bring you guys along with me for the things that I'm going to be baking. Three of the things we're going to bake together is going to be a lemon loaf, a banana nut bread, and me and my mother's favorite, a cinnamon raisin biscuit. You guys have seen me make biscuits before, and so today what we are going to do is make a cinnamon raisin biscuit with an icing. We are going to completely bake our lemon loaf and our banana bread, but what we're going to do with the cinnamon raisin biscuits is we are going to prepare them up into the point where we would have to proof and bake them. And we're going to stop it there. I'm going to place them in the refrigerator until tomorrow, and then I'll bake them off, and as soon as they come out of the oven I will glaze them. So as we get prepared to do that, let's make a cup of coffee. I don't know if I've showed you guys, well, let's make some espresso. If I've showed you guys how I use what is called a mocha pot. So this one is really, really old. I got this from Italy. It goes right on your stove top. If you have goodness, I can't remember the type of stove top, but you would get one that was similar. It would need to have a very heavy bottom. So mine works for both. But we put water in this section, and I always use distilled water or filtered water. And my sink has a filter on it. My refrigerator has a filter on it. I'm not a person who buys bottled water, so I don't do that. I have our oven preheating because we're going to put both of our quick breads into the oven at the same time, and they are going to go at 350 degrees, both of them for an hour. Now for me, I will check them at the 40-minute mark because I have a convection oven. So I put a section in, and it has the espresso in there, and the espresso that I have, the Pellini, is made for the mocha pot, if you can see. So you have to have the correct espresso for the item you're using. And then this is what the coffee will brew into. So we take this, it sits in just like this, and it goes on top of our stove. I always put it on a medium heat, and we're gonna let that go. So while that is going, we already oiled and floured our pans. We're gonna use these pans because I actually only have one loaf pan, and it's a cast iron loaf pan. We are going to mix these up by hand today. Again, I have one KitchenAid mixer. I do not have a hand mixer. I said I was gonna get one, but until then, these are quick breads, so they are easy. They are easy to actually mix up by hand. So I have just some chocolate chip cookies that I was baking off while we were getting ready to get our items done. So let's gather all our ingredients. I pre-measured everything yesterday, put it to the side because I wanted everything to be at room temperature. So we are ready. You guys know that I make my own vanilla, so that's what we use. I make a double strength vanilla using strictly Madagascar vanilla beans, and the alcohol I use is either a bourbon or a vodka. This is the items for our lemon loaf. And our eggs. So we are going to get started with our banana bread. So in here, I have measured out all my dry ingredients, which is going to be your flour, your sugar, your baking soda, and I use toffee pecans because that's I had some in my freezer from another recipe that I made. So those are my dry ingredients. I'm going to melt a half cup of butter. We're going to melt a half cup of butter, and we are going to mix that with our 3 very, very ripe bananas. So guys, if you have any bananas, I thought I took out, yeah, I have some sour cream. If you have any bananas in your house, and I'm going to show you what mine look like, do not be afraid, because they are not bad. The darker the outer skin gets, the sweeter the banana is. So it is absolutely positively okay. So we're going to stick this in our microwave for 30 seconds. These are our bananas. So I like to buy a bunch of bananas, and if I'm going to bake with them, of course I just let them sit. But if I know that I'm not going to bake with them right away, because we are not the biggest fans of bananas in this house, what I will do is I will take those bananas, separate them, do not peel them, just separate them and place them in the freezer. So I have some right now in freezer bags for the next time that I want to bake something. So we're going to put all of our liquid ingredients together, and that's literally going to be our melted butter, our bananas, and 2 large eggs. We're going to do the large eggs first because they need to be slightly beaten. And you simply do that because what you want is not to, when you are making a quick bread, you do not want to over mix a quick bread. And we know that sometimes we can be putting in different items and it takes a little bit longer for those items to mix in, especially eggs. You can hear our mocha pot going to town over there. So once I hear it start to rumble, I turn my stove off. So we have our sour cream in here. We have our eggs. We are going to put in our melted butter. That's just another item I had in the oven. So whenever you are having any type of brunch, dinner party, It is always best to prepare as much ahead of time as you can, simply because you don't want to be at your brunch or your dinner party running around trying to cook food. So today I'll be making a lot of things. We are going to be having what we call salmon patties. I want you to see the outside of this, and then I'm going to show you the inside. We are going to be having what we call salmon patties, and I am actually going to mix those up, patty those out, and put those in my refrigerator. Cover them up with cling wrap, put them in the refrigerator so that they will be ready to cook up tomorrow. And I'm going to make the hibiscus tea that we are going to have to drink tomorrow. I will already have that prepared today. So tomorrow, literally all I'll have to make is our grits, cook up our salmon patties, and we are going to have some shrimp. And I'm gonna make that easy on myself. I'm not deep frying anything. Those shrimp will either go into the air fryer or they will go into the oven. So we have our bananas, and as you guys can see, even though the outside of the banana peel looked the way that it did, the bananas themselves didn't look any way you would think that they would look. And a lot of people freeze bananas also if you're not baking with them. If you're a person who's a fan of putting them in your protein shakes, your smoothies, or anything like that, I've seen that a lot. So I'm just mashing up the bananas and getting our liquid portion fixed up. Because we want some bananas in there, but we don't want like big chunks of bananas. And we will get a lot of sweetness from those bananas. You can turn this recipe into banana nut muffins, but we are going to keep it simple for ourselves and just make a loaf. Okay, we got that all mixed up. Now we're going to add our dry ingredients. Again, this is a quick bread recipe, so we're just adding everything together, and we're going to fold those in with the liquid ingredients. We're going to fold the dry ingredients in with our liquid ingredients, and we're going to mix it up until it's nice and moist, and then we're going to set that to the side right quick and get our lemon loaf mixed up, because again, we're going to bake both of these together in the oven at 350 degrees for an hour. So as you can see, it's a nice thick batter. I have everything moistened. Making sure you're going under and over, because we want everything nice and moist. Now we're going to set that to the side. I'm going to get my cup of coffee, and we're going to start on our second recipe. And just like that, guys, we have one recipe down, and we are moving on to our second recipe. So let's get a cup of coffee, and then we're going to keep moving. So remember I told you the coffee brews into this. And this one pot will give you enough for 2 to 3 shots of espresso. So I'm gonna go over and get my creamer. So our next recipe, which is our lemon loaf, we have our 1/2 cup of butter. It is softened. We are to beat our butter until it's nice and creamy. So again, I don't have a hand mixer. So we're gonna go over to my regular mixer, and I'm gonna bring my regular mixer in, and we're gonna get that done in here. So we're gonna whip our softened butter until it's creamy. Once we do that, we are gradually going to add our sugar. So this time we did not mix all of our dry ingredients together, because we will be mixing our butter and sugar together. So how do you guys prepare whenever you have a brunch, a family dinner, or even I love to do a spring picnic? Whenever I'm first planting out for the spring, I like to bring my family over once I'm done planting, and we sit on the back porch and we have dinner out there. And it just culminates, you know, spring coming in. So I absolutely enjoy doing that. So we have our butter nice and creamy. We have our sugar, and we are going to gradually add our sugar. And then we're going to beat this until it is light and fluffy. When we have 2 eggs, we're going to add those eggs one at a time. Make sure you're continuously scraping down your sides because you want everything well incorporated. And everything tends to blend better if you have it at room temperature. So here I have the lemon that I'm going to squeeze for the icing that is going to go on top. I'm going to take some of this lemon and zest it and put it inside of our lemon loaf. It has already been cleaned. And remember to be careful not to get any of the pith, which is the white section, because it will make your items very bitter. I like to see, whenever I'm making vanilla, something with vanilla, I like to see the flecks of vanilla bean. And so making this lemon loaf, I want to see the flecks of the lemon. Guys, it smells so good. So we're gonna mix that in. And then what we're gonna do is alternately add in our milk and we're gonna alternately add in our milk as well as our flour mixture. And I'm going to add a little bit of lemon lemon extract, and I make that as well. And we have all of our dry ingredients in here, our flour, our salt, our baking soda, all of that is already inside. And we're gonna add that alternately with our milk, but again, we're not gonna drag out the process, because you don't want to be mixing this for too long. We're gonna make sure everything is all mixed up. We're gonna get this into our loaf pan. Get those dirty dishes into the dishwasher. Move our KitchenAid out of the way so that we can get started on our last recipe, which is going to be our cinnamon raisin biscuits. And guys, just like that, we have recipe number 2. And you can modify this recipe and add items if you so choose. Let's get everything wiped down. And we're gonna load items into our dishwasher because of course we want to clean as we go. And when we get done with all of our recipes, then all we have to do is start the dishwasher. And we don't have to worry about anything. That's why it's always good to make sure you start with the clean kitchen. That way you don't have any issues. So here are 2 pans, and we are going to sit them on this pan. So here's our lemon loaf. And remember guys, when you're preparing quick breads, you do not want to be mixing for a long time, hence the name quick bread. Get all of our batter out. Now this bread will have something similar to, I would say, a pound cake consistency, where your banana bread will have a bit more of a crumb cake consistency. It'll have more of a crumbly consistency. So here's our banana bread. So I think while I'm over here making a mess, that I want to separate these into 2 separate pans. It looks like a lot of batter. I do have an extra pan. And let's separate these into 2 separate ones so that it cooks evenly and properly. So this batter, now we see, will make you 2 loaves. So let's take some out of here. So this mixture, we have our 2 loaves of banana bread and 1 lemon loaf. And now we're going to place them in the oven. We're going to set our timer for 55 minutes and get that started. And now we are on the recipe, and that is going to be our biscuits. Buttermilk. So I am watching my cholesterol. So instead of using regular shortening or even coconut oil, I'm opting to use avocado oil shortening. And I have used this in biscuits before and they came out amazing. So we're going to use that. These are what I like to call angel biscuits. So they do have yeast. And then here are our dry ingredients, which of course consist of our flour, our salt, baking powder, sugar. I've added cinnamon, and we have our golden raisins. So we are going to bloom our yeast in 1/4 cup warm water. You do not want your water to be hot. You want it to be warm so you can get it right out of your sink. So we're getting the water hot. I'm gonna finish putting, while the water is heating up, we're gonna put our mixing bowls into the dishwasher. So we got our 1/4 cup of warm water. I want it to warm up just a little bit more. But you don't want to put it in the microwave because it will just get entirely too hot too fast, and then you'll have to wait on it to cool down. Because what you don't want is to kill your yeast. Guys, as we wait on that to warm up, whenever I went to culinary school, I was a very high-strung student. If you can imagine that. I was a very high-strung student. Even though I was an introvert, I worked well with others. And that's what I enjoy the most about being in the Army. I've been in 2 branches of the military, but what I enjoyed most about being in the Army is, like, you have to be a team player, because if you're not, things don't work out for you too well. So I had no issue working with others, but my issue was I did not understand the people who didn't like to clean up. So you guys know, if you have watched me for any amount of time, literally any amount of time, guys, I'm organized. I love everything to be organized. And so I don't understand when someone is not organized. So that was always a big issue for me. And I was in, I'd already had my children. I had been out of the military for just a little while. And I just didn't get it. I would be in class. Yes, we all weren't the same age, but it just floored me. People would be cooking and they would be surrounded with mess. And I'm like, how is this working out for you? Like, when I was chef, when it would be my turn to be chef for the day, I'm just like, no. Before we can move on to the next thing, we gotta get some stuff clean. Because otherwise, what would happen, okay, the water is hot enough. Otherwise, what would happen is we would find that some of us would have to stay after class. And this is the yeast that I'm using, active dry yeast. And we would have to clean up after the people who weren't so tidy while they worked. So that was hard because, whenever I leave here, my thing was, whenever I leave culinary school, I still have a family to go to. No, that wasn't their problem. But the fact is, it was your problem to clean up. And if I got to wait on you to clean up, then I can't move on to the next thing. So that for me was very, very hard. It was very trying. I have no problem working with others, but I can't stand procrastination. So again, if a person is a procrastinator, they will find it very hard to work with me. Because as you can see, I have a brunch happening here tomorrow, but I'm preparing today. I'm getting things done today because I'm a firm believer in, I want to enjoy my family. I want to enjoy the people that are coming over to hang out with me. And I can't do that if I'm stuck in the kitchen, working on food. Just like with my husband asked me, he said, I was doing the table setting and he said, oh, what's this for? And I said, Sunday brunch. And he was like, oh, you're practicing your setup. I said, yeah, I'm putting everything together. He said, so when you're done practicing your setup, are you going to take it down? And I was like, hey, check off the list. Let's get these things off the list and get moving. But yeah, so that's how it is for me. You see me in the kitchen. You see me in the garden. I even like my garden to stay clean. Yes, it's outside, but I'm a firm believer in, do you like to buy groceries out of a dirty grocery store? Think about that. If you do not like to buy groceries out of a dirty grocery store, then why in the world would you want your garden to have trash all in it and things all messed up? So that's a big one, a big thing for me. So while we are waiting on our yeast to bloom, We're going to get a cup of shortening. And of course, we're going to cut that shortening in to our dry ingredients. I'm going to move my raisins over to the side because what I want to do is when we go to add the yeast mixture and the buttermilk, that's when I want to add the raisins. It'll make it hard to cut the items in if I have the raisins in there as well. So let's get our raisins moved to the side. And it's okay if they have flour on them, because again, mise en place, all things in their place. I love to have all my items together. Makes life easy for me when I am putting things together, or if I'm doing more than one recipe at a time. It actually speeds the process up, as well as, you know, just like when you're building something, measure twice, cut once. So if you pull all your ingredients out before you start working, then you will know whether you have everything that you need. If you don't, you may get to mixing items and realize, oh my gosh, I've already started mixing and I'm missing something. So you don't want that to happen. And I want you to see, this is what the avocado shortening looks like. So again, it is a healthy alternative for people like me who are watching their cholesterol. So we are going to get what is called our pastry blender, and we are going to get to cutting the shortening into the flour. We have that all cut in. You don't see any chunks of shortening anymore. We're going to add our raisins back in. Go ahead and coat those so that they don't fall to the bottom. We're going to add our buttermilk. as well as our yeast mixture. And that's why these biscuits are called angel biscuits, because we're adding yeast to them, which will give them a lift. And so we're going to mix this together so everything is nice and moist. And then we're going to add a little flour to our countertop. And get these mixed in really well and cut out. Because as you can see, the mixture is wet. So let me get a pan to place these on once we cut them out. I'm going to use this pan. I'm going to place some parchment paper on top. And I like to buy pre-cut parchment sheets. It just makes my life easier. We're going to get our flour out. And you don't want a lot of flour because we don't want the biscuits to be heavy. We just want enough so that we can knead. You want to go outside, buddy? So that we can knead the dough out. And you guys have seen me knead flour before when we were making bread. I was going to make bread for the brunch tomorrow, but I'm not going to because I have these items. And if I have time, my mother also likes peach cobbler, and so does my husband. I was going to make a peach crisp today. I will get that made up. And as you can see, the batter is wet, very, very moist. That's how come you need to make sure you knead it. But again, it's not like your loaf of bread. So we are just looking for a nice, smooth texture, not super sticky. So you're going to be a little bit more gentle with this than what you would be with your sourdough loaf, your regular loaf of bread. You're going to be a bit more gentle. And then we'll get out, I use a dowel style of rolling pin, and we'll get that out. We'll flour it up and we'll roll. I'm gonna get a little bit more flour as well as my bench scraper. And this is what a bench scraper looks like. Flour. Now these I'm making a little bit smaller than my regular angel biscuits, but that is simply because they are thicker. So we are going to start lifting them up to place them on our pan. And normally if I were going to make these biscuits today, I would let them sit and rise. But I'm going to stop that process for today by placing them into the refrigerator and then taking them out in the morning. And as they as they warm up in the morning, they will start their proofing process. Like this one, we'll need our bench scraper. And again, we have our paper lined with parchment. We have our pan lined with parchment. And believe me, no dough gets left behind because I'm gonna roll this dough out and make more biscuits. I always like to have biscuits in the freezer. Like today, my husband wasn't feeling well and he likes homemade biscuits, so I was able to bless him with that. My love language is acts of service, and so I enjoy doing small things, big things for others to make their life easier, to make them smile. I enjoy those things, and in that, it gives me fulfillment. So we are literally going to need a second pan, guys. Because we have almost filled up this pan. So let's get these rolled out. Again, we don't want to manipulate the dough too much because this is our second roll. And again, we're going for an inch thickness. I don't think I've ever had a biscuit cutter or a donut cutter or anything along those lines, and I've been making biscuits and donuts for a very long time. I literally have finally been able to perfect my biscuit recipe, so it will be going into my cookbook. And then the yeast donut recipe, I have finally, to my satisfaction, perfected that one, so it will be going into my cookbook as well. And guys, it takes me a long time to say, oops, I've fallen in love with the recipe and I won't make the recipe any other way but this way. So it takes me a little while to get there. It was a big accomplishment for me to make the first cookbook. And so now it is a super goal of mine to add pages to it. So I'm excited about that. Let's get another pan ready with our parchment for these biscuits. Guys, the worst thing about baking day when I'm working with flour is I tend to get it everywhere. So when I am done, I literally have to hose myself and the kitchen down because I will have flour everywhere. So when you're baking these biscuits, you'll bake them at 400 degrees. But if you want a softer biscuit, bake them sides touching. If you want a crispier biscuit, bake them no sides touching. So we are just putting these into the refrigerator. Some will actually go into the freezer so that I can have some for later. Because whenever I make biscuits, I always make, a big batch so that some can go in the freezer. Just like the other day, we wanted chicken and waffles, and so I made chicken and waffles, and I made enough so that I can have fresh waffles in the freezer. And again, even though I'm watching my calories as well as my cholesterol intake, if you make items yourself, you control the ingredients. If you are purchasing items, you cannot control the ingredients. So for me, so that I I can eat the things that I like, I prefer to be able to control the ingredients. As you can see, this is why we don't manipulate the dough too much in the beginning, because to get to the next level, we literally have to keep working with it. So, because again, you worked hard on your dough, worked hard on your batter. You don't want to throw anything away. So, just be easy, be gentle. I love to see those raisins in there. So a cinnamon raisin biscuit is similar, if you're a person who likes scones, it is similar to a scone. This will be our last two. It is similar to a scone, and I like scones. So again, tomorrow we'll make the icing for this. I do have leftover icing for making donuts, but that icing is going to go on our lemon loaf. What I'm going to do is actually add a little, for the donuts, I had a nice thick icing, but for the lemon loaf, I'm going to add some lemon juice to it and thin it out. And that is what I'm going to drizzle on top of the lemon loaf, and then garnish with some lemon zest. So let's get some of this cleaned up. You see our 2 pans of biscuits right there. We're gonna get those in my second refrigerator, and then I'm gonna bring you back whenever, see, flour everywhere, whenever we get our banana bread as well as our lemon loaf out of the refrigerator. So I'll see you in a minute.